Hello, Gregory. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy that we have the opportunity to discuss today with Gregory, who is the CEO of HYT. It's one of the most courageous watch manufacturers in the industry. And I'm very happy that we have now the opportunity to discuss a little bit more about the brand and also about the new models. So, hello and welcome. I would like to ask you first to tell us a few things about yourself in the industry.
So thank you, Konstantin, in order to, and MISTERWATCH, in order to give us the opportunity to have this direct conversation. We know that we are all living very, very tough times with a lot of people, so many people, confined and living tragedies. And for us, what we see that the more we are confined, the more we would like to communicate and to enter into contact. And this is what we try to do at HYT, is to transform these very unique times, these very challenging times, into possibilities to interact, to communicate, and to talk about our passion about HYT, but also the other indie brands and the watch industry. And I think that the new media and the new way we are living now that transform completely from A to Z the way the people used to listen, to hear, to read, news from the fields that they are passionate. It's completely changed, and this transformation is an opportunity, and we all have to look and to seize these unique moments in order to be more in contact together. So despite this confinement, we give the hope, and we give all our passion in order to be able to discuss together. So let's do it.
Yes. It was also, it's a nice opportunity for us. Ourselves from MISTERWATCH, we have been already writing about HYT, and we've been present to let people know about the very interesting approach about the horological industry. But it's a good opportunity that we discussed a little bit more and we go a bit in depth into the brand. So for the beginning, HYT brought the indication of time with liquids on the wrist. What does it say about time? Shall we read it differently?
You don't have to read it differently. You have to experience it differently. Okay. The thing is that everything is about experience. And I would say that we are all used, because we have been trained since our very, very young age, how to read the time with hands.
Yeah.
And there has been a very interesting article, in the Daily Telegraph in the UK, that where they did a study in the UK and saying that 60% of the teenagers cannot read time anymore on analog clocks. It's because, and I did the experience with my daughter, and she had to learn how to read, time with the small hand, with the long hand, 1:10, etc. It's a pain in the ass. Sorry for that. I should not say that kind of words, but it's not easy. You get used. The more you practice, the more, you know. The thing is that now if I find it, with all the teenagers, for example, you want to know what is it? It's 1403. Okay, it's atomic precision, etc. And the new generations, they read that with numbers, which is not other abstraction, but it's numbers. And if you do not practice the reading with the hands, you forget it. That means that this representation of time, this reading of time, is not convenient, is not intuitive, is not thought for the human people. What we have done at HYT is we did a step back, really up, and we say, what is the best way to tell the time for the human people? And we arrived to this gauge, to these two liquids, one colored liquid which displays the thing that you have done in your day, your past, and the clear liquid that tells you what you have, the future will be. Okay, the things that have to come. You see it here on the H5 model. You see a blue liquid and you see a clear liquid. It's like a gauge. It's like the everything that you see now on the very modern contemporary brands, Ferrari cars. You have Lamborghini. You have all this. I don't know if you see here the Apple Watch, etc. They all display information with gauges. No more hands. Why? It's because you can show a gauge, like the one that you have here, which is in 3 dimensions, which is a lot of auto-horlogerie combined with contemporary science. But by seeing that, you do not need any training to somebody to understand there is a beginning, there is an end, and when the color will fill the whole channel, it will be gone. It will be done. And we display 12 hours from 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. and for 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and which displays 12 hours of your day. And this is something where you feel not the specific indication of time, but the flow of time. Time is fluid, and you see the stream of time. And this is what you see. And yes, you have to buy a watch in order to change your perception of time. Not only to see it abstractly, but to see it from your gut, from here, from your stomach. This is what you feel.
So it's obvious, a very original, a different approach about watches. And that's why I go to the next question, which would be not exactly the main market, but how is the typical HYT customer? How do you see it?
I always hated to put me in a box, but to try to think of our customers, I would say there are 2 big channels, 2 big categories. The first one are the collectors that started their journey in the watch industry with brands like Rolex and Omega and Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet and Breguet, etc., etc. And once, all these amazing but very big brands, they realize that there is another kind of watchmaking, which is much more oriented to the risk-taking, entrepreneurship, creativity. Then they enter into indie brand, and we have this very, very, very knowledgeable people that are our first base of customers. What we have developed in the last 3 years is thanks to a new aesthetics, new aesthetical codes that we have with our watches. We target and we have a much younger base of customers worldwide. And what is this younger base? We see that, for example, in China, it can start at 20 years old, 18, 20, 25 years old. And in America, in Europe, we start at 30, 35 years old. What I mean is that I think, and these people, this young generation, generally, they do not collect watches. They are not watch lovers. But suddenly, by chance, when we have the opportunity to communicate and that they hear us, suddenly, they hear a storytelling and a science and the meaning and the philosophical approach that is always combined with science. HYT is a combination of art and science. That's at the crossroads. That talks to them because we talk about, a modernity and a contemporary way to tell the time, and not only a new interpretation of things that have been invented in the past. So yes, we have these 2 groups of people that we interact a lot with them, but I would say it gives a good balance between our 2 legs at HYT.
It's very interesting because it's obvious that the face of HYT is becoming a recognizable brand and a recognizable symbol in the watch industry. And these days I've been talking a lot about what it means and what it takes for a watch to become an iconic watch. So how do you create an iconic watch for the future, such as an HYT?
If I had the secret formula to create an iconic watch, I would become, like a billionaire. time will tell. What is what the key that we live at HYT when we do the creation. We never think of the future. We try to be. I love to say that the future is now. And a lot of people say, and Woody Allen once he said, it's really difficult to forecast, especially in the future. And I think it's a good sentence because the fact is that the future, is according to what you do right now. Don't expect something from the future. The future is not something which is abstract. The future is only impacted by what we are doing now. So at HYT, our future is now. And when we create a watch, we do all our passion, we put all our love, we put all our inspiration, all our creativity, everything right now. Because and we want to put everything that we have, and to create one watch, which is a watch from the now. And I think that when you do that, when you don't think too much on, will the watch be very, will be accepted by this group of people or this group of people? Am I too radical on that or not enough radical on that? Do I do a watch too much for the Chinese and not enough for the Japanese and not enough for the American or for the Romanian? If you do that, you're dead, because you will do a lot of compromise. And I think that one of the things, it's like contemporary art. When you create something, a painting, a sculpture, when you do that, you put your stomach and your everything on your piece of art. You do that, you have to be radical, and the radicality comes with the now. So we are living the now, we are enjoying the now, we are producing and creating watches now.
So what is HYT doing now? What does the new year bring to HYT?
So at HYT, we have unveiled some new models since the beginning of the year. You know that one of our important product is the H5 that I wear here on my wrist. It's the tribute that we did for our new collaboration with Tech Group. We have we do some collaborations with the best watchmakers. We started with Jean-François Maujean with Chronode, and then Audemars Piguet, Renaud & Papy for another collection. And now we are celebrating a new collaboration with Tech Group. One of the important watchmakers is Eric Coudray, with whom we have been creating and collaborating. And the H5 is the celebration of this new collaboration. And so we did this with it's a limited edition. Each color comes with a limited edition of 25 pieces. And now we are celebrating the blue color, very fresh, very, very young, very cool, of the H5. We just unveiled also 10 days ago the H0 all black that we have proposed in 2017. It's all black and with only a thin superluminova under the capillary, under the tube of glass in orange. And you also have the numbers that are orange. This watch is really to celebrate the fact that we tell the time from 6 to 6. A lot of people, you have the watch from noon to noon, yeah. But here we start from 6 to 6. And a lot of people ask us, why don't you start, the capillary at noon? It's because, as the time that we want to represent is really human, the human time. And the human time is much more, synchronized with the sunrise and the sunset. The inspiration of having this combination of black and orange is really the sunrise and sunset, because when you look at the landscape with the sunrise, it's still dark, and suddenly you see the sun, which is like a big ball of fire, orange like that, and it was our inspiration. So that you see, and with this orange superluminova, you see the spirit of the human time. What will come in the coming weeks and in September will be disclosed very soon, but it will be a combination of natural elements, inspiration like the rain. You know, the rain is liquid, huh? it's water. So there will be reference and inspiration with rain, and the other is still the sun. The sun is the light, and we are always been inspired by the light. And when you combine liquids, light, etc., you do some great watches.
You mentioned the idea of presentations and talking to clients. How do you see the idea of exclusivity in the world of watches? And how do you see it, especially in these times? I mean, generate exclusivity in the world of watches, which somehow has very much been associated with a certain lifestyle, I might say, or a very limited production. Or how do you see it, the idea of exclusivity?
I would say that, at HYT, we produce 350, 400 watches per year. So it's very, very limited quantities compared to the others. I think that besides the numbers, what counts is really how do you treat and how do you engage with your customers. And you read a lot of things about being customer-centric, etc. I would say that from our perspective, we put and we have the vision of the sun, to come back to the idea of sun, but the sun is our customer. And we are just like satellite, you know. We are not the sun, the brand, forget it. Our customers are the center, and what we try to do is that digitally, physically, through Instagram, through interviews, through Zoom meetings, through all that, we try to give our customers different touch points in order to enter into interaction with the brand in a personalized way. What I would love, I never could do that in a year, but what I would love is to meet the 350 customers that we have. And these days, I spend a lot of time on digitally, and I have never met so many people, never ever in my life, by traveling. And I love, and I had last weekend a discussion with, there was a group of Asian watch collectors. There was also somebody from the Philippines with a doctor treating the COVID. And he was explaining his life. You know, he works 1 week at the hospital, 2 weeks confined at home. He's got, etc., etc. It's a lot of personal interactions. And it's easier, and it's easy to say that for me because we do 350 watches. But I think this is the spirit, the way you visualize your customer. And if I can spend 24/7 per week meeting, even digitally, our customers, it will make my whole week. And this is the target that we have at HYT, is really customer-centric. Everything we'll do for the customers.
It's a very interesting approach. And but going a little bit to the brand, I go back to the brand because I want to make a very clear message to people who at this moment maybe only notice that it's a very interesting design. I mean, how different is to develop a brand from scratch than to rely on a personality, on a heritage? How do you give substance to a brand like HYT in times when, I mean, okay, the competition is tough, the people have a lot of information, and you have independent watch brands, manufacturers, but manufacturers that rely on the classic symbols, on the classic language, and maybe that language is more easy to understand. So how do you build HYT from scratch?
It's a very good question, which is not easy. I would say that the first thing is really the authenticity. Why we created HYT is because we thought, and we are still thinking, that the watch industry also have to reinvent itself. And there are more than 350, 400 watch brands in the Swiss watch industry. And I would say that for sure, each brand has its own identity and personality. But everything relies on the last 300 years. It's an amazing treasure, the 300 years. It's a gift. There has been genius guys, creators, inventors, really amazing. Our heritage should not be limited to reinterpret or to take the things from the past and to give like a fresh air modernity because you do a more rounded shape. No, our responsibility and the real tribute that we should pay to our the genius that built decades after decades, centuries after centuries, the richness of the watch industry, which is ours of today. Our responsibility should be to have the same inspiration that they had. They were pioneers. They solved real problems. How to tell the time when it's night, when you cannot see the hands or whatever with the ear. At HYT, we created it with mechanical light to take all these old problem challenges and being like a Breguet, being in May 2020. What would Breguet do right now, today? What would he do? What would he create? And I think that this spirit of creation, not to be stuck too much into in the past, has to be really the essence of what we all should do, and to shape the history of the future, which is the now of the watch industry. You build the future exactly now. And I don't compare HYT with Tesla. It's not the purpose at all, because it's the two companies that have different. And at HYT, we don't kill, the past. We are still really anchored in the tradition because we have amazing mechanical movement. And this is the base of the building of HYT, is really the traditional watchmaking, traditional movement, amazing haute horlogerie. But this is our base one. Then based on the base one, we built everything, new science, new technology, in order to propose new perception for our customers.
Just before we leave, before we say goodbye, I want to do a short recap and come to you with the last question. I've been following the HYT story, and it was first the H1, then it was the H2, and somehow you came back with the H0, which in my opinion is the best design so far. And I want to ask you, how do you think of a future step? Because it came with a bigger shape, with a more rigid shape, and then it came to H0, which is very contemporary. It has a light design. It was also easy to wear, more easy to wear. So where do you head now, as a vision?
So first of all, we always, with all our watches, we always try to improve the wearability, the ergonomy of the watch on the wrist. And that's why we have created the H0, which has no sharp angle, no lugs here, so that you wear it on the wrist. Even if you have small wrist, I don't have big wrist, it's very comfortable. So we have been working not the inside, the outside, in order to make our volumes, because our technology requires some volumes. And we love that, because we love the three-dimensionality much more than the two-dimensionality. But all this essence of the fluid design, aesthetical codes, we will continue to work with that. Now, technically, for sure, and a lot of people tell us, okay, what's next, HYT, what's next? And I say, well, we have invented new complications from the third millennium with the fluid device, but also with the light device, the light device, where on the H4, we create electricity out of a mechanical movement with no electronics, no battery. We have invented that, and we have put it in our models. And when you combine these elements of liquids with light. I think that we have two important base of a platform or technology that we will play with in the future. So stay tuned. I think that before the end of the year, you will see something great popping your eyes. You will see, and we have a 5-7 years plan of research and development, because all our complications take a lot of time, because we are creating, we are inventing, and for that, and we use a lot of new technologies, new science, and for that we need a lot of time. So we try to accelerate that, but still it requires a lot of time. And I will finish by the fact that we have HYT is I don't know how to say in English. In French, you say le vilain petit canard, the bad the duck, in the Disney comics. So there is a duck that wants to go with another, and the thing is that HYT has always been challenged as not being watchmaker. Now we have the recognition from our peers, because there will be a new book from all the complicated watches. That is a reference book for all the watchmakers in Switzerland, and there will be only 2-3 brands that will incorporate the new edition, where only watchmakers that created new complications from the third millennium. And HYT will be inside with our fluidic device, with our light system, and the fluidic device integrates. And many people ask me, why don't you integrate a tourbillon at HYT? And I would say, for me, it makes no sense to incorporate a tourbillon that has been invented more than 200 years ago. It would just have been you put it's not really challenging, and we are into creating complications, and we have created our own tourbillon, which is a thermal compensator that compensates not the gravity like the tourbillon, that compensates everything that impacts a lot with liquids, which is the temperature. And with that, it's a wonderful invention. And yes, we'll be in this new edition of the complicated watches. So we start and we continue a lot all the work that we do based on reinventing, re-enchanting, giving new perspective, new perception of time to the watch industry and to our customers.
Sounds like a lot of work. I'm sure
a lot.
It's going to be great days. I always say that we have to keep being optimistic, and great days are ahead of us. So, Gregory, thank you again for your time. Thank you from my behalf and of the followers, readers, and everyone in the Mr. Watch. And looking forward to see you soon again in Switzerland.
Thank you, Constantine, and hope to see you very soon in Rio. I think that this digital way at least gave us a lot of opportunities. The physical contact and the having physical interactions when you see the people in Rio will never be replaced. So it missed me, and I miss that, and I hope to be able to do that very soon. And thank you, Constantine, for the great job that you do for education, and continue to do like that. And yes, see you very soon.